While the White House is rather cross with South Park these days, which the Hollywood trade takes great delight in, parent company Paramount just gave them a whiplash, for they just ended all their DEI programs and commitments which the Hollywood trade has been so supportive of. Adding insult to injury, many are quick to credit the very same White House that South Park just took on, with saving not just Paramount, but its subsidiaries like Star Trek. Let's see what's really going on here. This video is sponsored by Black Forest Supplements. How times have changed. It wasn't long since most major companies established various DEI programs and commitments, in no small part because the major financial institutions of the world started linking these companies' credit lines to their DEI score, as we broke down in an earlier video. Hollywood, however, being filled with activists and true believers, took this to an extreme that few others did. Many studios going so far as to not only have their own draconian DEI policies and hiding strategies, but even refusing to work with third parties, such as caterers, unless they had their own oppressive DEI policies as well. The Academy even went so far as to make certain DEI requirements mandatory for movies to even qualify for awards consideration. And this used to be applauded and seen as self-evidently good among the worst extremists within the Hollywood bubble. Yet the audience of the world fled as all the programming, especially from the major studios, became propaganda, with Alex Kurtzman's Star Trek being a showcase of how badly unrestricted DEI can go. Many question if recovery is even possible for that franchise, but the new ultimate owner of Paramount, Skydance, will certainly give it a try. We're about to get into that, but first, and on the topic of recovery. Are you familiar with stem cells? They're like tiny repair crews in your body. Dr. Eric Berg, one of the foremost health educators on YouTube, has been talking about them for years.
A stem cell is kind of like this reserve cell that can pretty much change into anything that you need. They're using it now to regenerate fibrosis, which then allows the heart muscle function to improve by 30%. They can do the same thing with liver fibrosis and damaged brain cells. They're getting great results stimulating new cartilage in your joint. Some people are using it for autoimmune diseases like MS, and also to help rejuvenate skin cells to actually make the skin young again. There's also stem cells for cancer. It's very important to understand how to keep that stem cell population at the highest level.
With all these benefits, stem cells are crazy expensive, upwards of $50,000 for one injection. Luckily, my guys at Black Forest developed cocoa flavanols, as there are studies demonstrating that the flavanols in cocoa stimulate natural stem cell production in your bone marrow, which Harvard scientist Dr. William Lee actually backs up.
Now, how do we know this actually functions, works in people? Well, clinical studies have been done with high flavanol cocoa to show that in like men who are in their 60s with heart disease, they could actually just have 2 cups of dark chocolate hot cocoa a day for a month. Yeah. And they doubled the amount of stem cells in their bloodstream, and their circulation improved measurably.
So, Black Forest cocoa flavanols isn't your average cocoa, but a stem cell power-up that you can mix in coffee or protein shakes. It tastes great, has no sugar, and only 20 calories. This will counter the effects of aging, slow recovery, weak immunity, or just feeling off. Cocoa flavanols activates your stem cells like a fountain of youth in a scoop, and if you go to my link in the description or pinned comment below, then for the next 48 hours, you can get a whopping 40% off promo. That's only for the next 48 hours though, so act now. With that, let's return to the beginning of the end for DEI. To address the headline we've showed a couple of times here, Cosmic Book News writes, President Donald Trump may have just done what Starfleet couldn't, rescue Star Trek, Paramount, and CBS from a woke implosion. As we previously reported, Paramount was rumored to be making a U-turn on its diversity mandates following backlash from fans and mounting financial losses. With Skydance's pending takeover of Paramount Global, big changes are officially coming, and Trump is taking a victory lap. Cool as that may sound, I'm not quite sure about that, but depending on how this plays out, fans of Star Trek certainly may want to. From here, let's transition to That Park Place, which arguably has the best write-up of all here, which reads, Skydance Media has outlined sweeping changes to Paramount Global's operations as part of its $8 billion merger acquisition. The commitments, detailed in letters to the Federal Communications Commissions, include the complete elimination of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs across Paramount and its subsidiaries, such as CBS, alongside the appointment of an independent ombudsman to oversee potential biases in CBS News reporting. These steps aim to prioritize merit-based hiring, non-discriminatory practices, and a broader spectrum of viewpoints in content creation, reflecting a push towards operational efficiencies and public interest standards. Of course, none of this came out of the blue. That Park Place describes the background here as follows. The merger between Skydance, led by CEO David Ellison, and Paramount has been under FCC scrutiny since early 2025, primarily due to the transfer of broadcast licensees for CBS stations. The review process has extended beyond the typical 180-day informal timeline, reaching over 250 days. Skydance's latest pledges come amid efforts to secure approval from the Trump administration's FCC, chaired by Brendan Carr. Of particular note here, then, is ending DEI initiatives, which includes ceasing numerical goals tied to race, ethnicity, sex, or gender for job applicants and employees, excluding these characteristics from promotion criteria and compensation plans, eliminating minimum spending requirements for diverse suppliers, removing DEI references from internal training, social media, websites, and business conduct statements, closing the Office of Global Inclusion and reallocating employee resource groups under Human Resources with a new focus on employee culture and engagement. Also of particular note is depropagandaifying the news division, and to this end, the write-up continues, Skydance pledged to appoint an ombudsman for CBS News, reporting directly to incoming president Jeff Shell. This role, lasting at least 2 years, will handle any complaints of bias or other concerns, promoting transparency and increased accountability. The move is designed to guarantee that CBS programming embodies a diversity of viewpoints across the political and ideological spectrum and remains fair, accurate, and fact-based. And of course, this came in the immediate aftermath of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, a money loser for CBS, being headlined by what many, myself included, view as a pure propagandist, was cancelled, adding further fuel to the allegations that all of this is purely political and done to appease the Trump White House. I can't rule out that there isn't anything to that, even though CBS losing tens of millions on Colbert every year is reason enough to be cancelled. But even if there is something to it, it's clearly not as much as the obviously deranged and delusional Colbert seems to think. Otherwise, the South Park guys wouldn't have gotten away with what they just did, which did make the Trump White House cross with them. That aside, a major like Paramount ending their DEI commitments will have larger repercussions in Hollywood. That Park Place writes, this merger could mark a pivotal shift in Hollywood, where DEI initiatives have been staples since the mid-2010s amid calls for greater representation. By dismantling these structures, Skydance signals a bet on meritocracy to drive efficiency and appeal to a wider audience, potentially reducing costs associated with supplier quotas and specialized offices. All of which is true. I just hope that they will remember that in order to win that bet, they actually have to produce quality content, which means bringing back to life brands like Star Trek. To this end, Cosmic Book News took it a bit further, writing about Star Trek in particular. The timing of this couldn't be better for fans of Star Trek, which many felt had veered too far into divisive messaging under producer Alex Kurtzman. Rumors have suggested Paramount may cut ties with Kurtzman's secret hideout production company once the Skydance deal closes. If that happens, the next frontier for Star Trek might finally include good storytelling again, without the woke agenda. Sure, Star Trek tackles current politics and social issues, but things go so bad that the agenda was more important than the story. This is true. Star Trek under Kurtzman is right up there with the BBC's Doctor Who, where signaling virtue is concerned, and that extends beyond the TV series. Over on the comics side of things, Heather Antos is handling Star Trek comics over at IDW, and she's doing it so wokely and so badly that Paramount considered pulling the license. Allegedly, the only reason IDW got to keep it is that the brand is so damaged that no one else wanted it. But if there is to be a Star Trek rescue mission, Skydance better pull that license anyway, because no Star Trek comics is surely better for the brand than the DEI slop Antos has been overseeing. Much of it with writers that shouldn't be anywhere near Star Trek. The ultimate fate of Star Trek, and indeed all the other brands adversely impacted by DEI, which is virtually every major brand these days, will in the end be decided by how the audience responds to what the individual brand manager is doing. But what Skydance are doing here, regardless of what motivated them to do it, will have a major impact, because removing the DEI policies also removes the incentives to compromise creative teams and storytelling, because doing so will garner the individual doing it brownie points. And that must never be forgotten. Most of those involved in pushing all the exclusion these past few years only did so because they were incentivized to do so. Remove that incentive structure and bring back meritocracy, and things will slowly start returning to what traditionally was considered normal. That at least is my hope. Do you think there is any? Let me know in the comments, and before you go, remember that cocoa flavanols activates your stem cells like a fountain of youth in a scoop. And if you go to my link in the description or pinned comment below, then for the next 48 hours, you can get a whopping 40% off promo. That's only for the next 48 hours though, so act now.